My name's Eugene Worley, and along with my wife Glenda, we have spent nearly 50 years in ministry in Ethiopia, Norway, the UK, and in the US. I'd like in these podcasts to share with you some of our experiences from those years. Getting settled in Addis Ababa. The tourist slogan for Ethiopia is 13 months of sunshine, and the reason is that there are 12 months of 30 days in the Ethiopian calendar, with an extra month of 5 or 6 days. There are also 7 years behind our calendar, which means that it is 2013 instead of 2021. We arrived July 30th, 1968, or should I say 1961, but we'll stick with the 1968. It was a rainy season, which generally runs from June until September, with August having the heaviest rainfall. It's not exactly the best time to arrive because it being the rainy season, there are an abundance of flies. However, we received a warm welcome by our fellow missionaries who came to the airport to meet us. Then we went to one of the missionaries' homes where there was a table spread for us. Sloppy joes, baked beans, and potato salad never tasted so good. We spent the afternoon getting acquainted and hearing their stories of life in Ethiopia. Most of them we had never met, but they quickly became good friends and like family. In fact, it was the custom among missionaries for children to call the adult missionaries uncle and aunt. This get-together in a missionary home with American food really did make a difference in adjusting to a country which was so different from our own. It was a great time of fellowship, just being with fellow missionaries and also fellow Americans. Afterwards, we were taken back into Addis, where we were given an apartment in the mission headquarters buildings. We were very tired after a long flight, so we went in, unpacked our suitcases, took a shower, and tried to rest. It was the rainy season, and the apartment building was damp, and the towels were mildewed, which left a lot to be desired. Laying there on the bed, hearing the sounds of the streets below, with the noise of people, animals, and traffic, I distinctly remember after all these years that if I didn't know God had called us, we would have taken that next flight out of the country. That same evening, the missionaries thought we needed a little Ethiopian culture, so we were taken to an authentic Ethiopian restaurant for our first experience eating the national food. Injera consists of a sponge-like bread, which is called injera. It is fermented, and there are various types of vegetables, meats, and some of it is very spicy. This is called wat, or stew. Foreigners react differently to this food, but to help you understand that very first experience for us, the lighting was dim, and it was out in the countryside, not a fancy city restaurant. You eat the food by breaking off a piece of the bread and using the bread to pick up the stew. You definitely have to develop a taste for injera. And after you do, you actually crave it. That did not happen for us on our very first day, though. A picture taken of Glenda shows her with a look that said, "Do I have to eat this?" Ron took to it immediately, as though he had always been eating it, but that's the difference between an adult and a child.
We learned very early that just living was a big part of doing our ministry. We lived at the mission headquarters building until our shipment of goods arrived and we found a home. Many questions filled our mind, and one of the big ones for me was, where do I shop? I loved cooking and my family loved to eat, so that was important to me. When I asked where the grocery store was, I was in for an eye-opener. I was taken to the brown shop. It was called this because it had a brown door and was located in the downtown area in a long row of shops. It had previously been called the step-up shop because there were 2 steps to the entrance of the shop. The brown shop was actually a small room with a counter where you placed your order. There were shelves that went to the ceiling loaded with food items. My eyes went upward, checking to see what was available. If I saw what I'd wanted or needed, I would give my order to Mr. Brown, as we called him. We always bought in bulk since everything was imported, and if the items were there today, they might not be available the next time. So I would ask for a case of beans, peas, corn, or whatever they had. Sometimes we could even get bacon in a can, which was actually very good. If we wanted a certain food item, we would ask if it could be ordered. One of those items was tortillas in a can. When that order came in, there was a rush by all the foreigners to see who could get there first. We could make tortillas, and we did, but it was so nice to be able to open a can. The next stop was the meat market. They were small, open-air shops with meat hanging on hooks. We would check out to see what was available, which was usually beef, goat, or lamb. I would point to some beef and tell them how many kilos I wanted. We would then take it home and cut it to our liking. Some went for roast, some for steak, and then the meat grinder would come out, and we ground up the rest for hamburger. We laughed at some of our cuts of meat and learned a lot more as we went along. We were so thankful, though, for the trusty pressure cooker, which was put to the test all the time. We could not buy pork because neither the Orthodox Christians nor the Muslims ate it, and it just wasn't available. There were also people going up and down the street selling chickens and eggs. We would test the eggs in water to see if they were fresh, however. Sometimes we'd still get a bad egg. We bought powdered milk since we were not sure if the local milk was safe. Oh, the fruit and vegetable markets were really a blessing. You would find them everywhere, and they were so beautifully arranged. The climate was perfect for vegetables, and we were able to get a good supply. We did have to wash our vegetables and fruits in bleach water and then rinse them in filtered or boiled water. We were thankful, though, for all the things we could get. It was a great learning experience, and the lessons we learned then have helped us in so many other situations in our lives. We can say over and over again that God was faithful, is faithful, and will always be faithful. Settling into our life in Ethiopia was not as hard as we thought. In fact, it soon became home to us. As missionaries, we learned to love the people God had called us to serve. We had much to learn, but the Ethiopians were very kind and patient with us. The most important message for us and the Ethiopians is found in John 3:16. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish, but have everlasting life. Or, as it is written in Amharic, Johannes sost asrat sadist. Be'ersu yemayaman hulu yezalalam hewat indonoro NG and datafa exiabiher andialajun iskasit deris alamun indahu wodawalnal. I hope you will listen to our next podcast as we share more stories of our early years in Ethiopia.